supportive housing for individuals with mental illness. The purge to get me out of this house will be explained now, and how detailed and how draconian they were in their attempts to get me dislodged. In 2005, I was admitted to the regional hospital, to the mental health unit. I had PTSD. I wasn't sleeping. It was February. It was really cold, and I ended up on the mental health unit, and I was kept there for a couple of months. And until I could negotiate my way into some kind of an apartment, because it was very difficult to get an apartment in Sydney at the time. So I did find accommodation, but it wasn't very good, and when I found out what people were living in, like, I was just overwhelmed, because if you had mental health issues and you lived in Sydney in 2005, there was a good chance that you had a hole in the wall, and you had very little in safety. There's a good chance you had rats. There's a good chance there were vermin of some kind, or leaky roofs, or bad windows. It was all people with mental health issues were having to put up with this. So, with that in mind, I joined what they call the Crossroads Clubhouse, which I explained previously is not really a clubhouse. And I went there to get my footing, to find out who's who in mental health. It was off-site. And I started to learn the basics about how we formed a committee. And the committee was called Supportive Housing for Individuals with Mental Illness. And if you're looking, that's what you see on the screen. And we're going to read through together. SHINI is an acronym. It is an innovative solution to a pressing community need for individuals who are living with mental illness and in need of supportive housing options. The project provides high-quality, secure, and independent housing, together with a range of responsive supports to adults living and recovering from mental illness. Persons living with mental illness are frequently marginalized and vulnerable, and a struggle to find decent housing is an affordable cost. Many live in substandard apartments, partly because of the dynamic of private sector market rent levels, and partly because of the shelter allowances provided by provincial income assistance. They are often shunned because of the visible signs of poverty, the presentation of symptoms, and the general misconceptions that many live and have about mental illness. The propensity to violence, or irrational actions, or beliefs, criminal intent associated with drug use, all of this. Suitable apartments and associated utilities that can be afforded under the shelter proportion of income assistance are rare. Apartments that rent for applicably less than generally have some compelling reason, and are not commanded above average market rent. The principality to this is because of the physical condition and of the location. Individuals living with and recovering from mental illness frequently experience housing insecurity, couch surfing, substandard accommodations, low income, social exclusion. While successfully confronting one of these issues would be a challenge, combined, they can lead to poor quality of life and risk to homelessness is high. There is now a considerable body of research to support the advantage of the need for community-based support for individuals with mental illness. A full partnership, respectful communication, autonomy, choice of stable, decent, flexible housing are the cornerstone to this approach. The voices and experience of people who have lived in mental illness have been and will continue to be the driving force of this Shimmy project. Housing supports within the local community are far more effective and efficient than institutionalization or congregate style housing for most. Community support options provide persons living with mental illness the possibility of choice and the ability to exercise these choices, thereby creating an independent, a lifestyle, practical, building self-confidence, empowerment, and ontological security. In turn, reduces the negative impacts of mental illness on the individual, the family, the friends of the community as a whole. The first building block for community-based support is secure housing. The Shimmy model provides the practice of integrating small numbers of apartments seamlessly, unobtrusively in the community. The housing is secure both in the physical sense and the financial sense. Physical security: the apartments and buildings are furnished in a mid-market standard, and professional property management ensures the rent is collected and the bills paid and quality standards are maintained. The financial security: all shelter costs, rent, heat, power are included for rent at $5.35 a month, and this is the maximum shelter allowance available to single individuals through the province of Nova Scotia's Income Assistance Program. Fixing the rent at a maximum shelter component ensures the balance of an individual's income can be used for clothing and food and transportation, etc. Furnishings: through the generosity of the Mental Health Foundation of Nova Scotia, the Cape Breton Mental Health Foundation, each new apartment is furnished with a full suite of furniture, appliances, including washer and dryer. The Shimmy Coalition's first apartments occupied in 2007, and the renovation of 9 units funded by the Homelessness Partnership and Strategy and Human Resources Development Canada. New Dawn, through its non-profit housing agency, the Cape Breton Association for Housing Development, acted as the sponsoring agency for the initiative, with New Dawn continuing its role for apartments in 2006 and 9 apartments 2011, which included the first 2-bedroom units were acquired. New Dawn has since acquired several other units, bringing their current portfolio to 27. 2013, a team of researchers headed by Catherine Levitt-Reed and Pamela Johnson, Cape Breton University, Michael Miller, Crossroads Clubhouse, undertook a format assessment of Shimmy. And here's where I have to interrupt for a second. The person who created the Shimmy program was me, Glenn Muse. This group of people, Pamela Johnson and Catherine Levitt-Reed and Michael Miller, who's uneducated, were the ones that put this report together. And they never asked me one question. And anything that I wanted to do with the program was taken out. Everything I created. All of the units would not have been acquired, renovated, and furnished without the program funding and capital from the Homelessness Partnership Strategy, the Affordable Housing Initiative in the province of Nova Scotia, and the Mental Health Foundation of Nova Scotia, Cape Breton Mental Health Foundation. You see, these people who put together this program were very well intentioned, and it was just taken away. Now, they inserted Martin's story because they took mine out. And they wanted to make sure that they had someone who couldn't respond, but who would praise everything that was going on and explain exactly what was taking place, and he did a good job of that. And Joyce McLeod, who wrote most of this report, took from my report to actually talk about shimmy. Now, we know what shimmy is. So now let's get a look at like what happened to shimmy. Like in 2005, we had 4 apartments to begin with. Okay, I moved in 2006. So the first 4 apartments were occupied by me on the lower floor, and on the right hand side in the other apartment was my friend Burton Reed. Okay, now Burton was schizophrenia, and he had problems. There's no doubt about that, but he had a major stuttering problem, and that stuttering problem, when he was admitted to the mental health unit back then at Cape Breton Hospital, he was only a child, and they considered the stuttering problem to be part of his mental health issues. So guess what? Burton was then a ward of the mental health system back in the early 60s and 70s, and he got shock treatment, and had they treated the underlying trauma of his family abusing him, he wouldn't have ended up with mental health issues like most. So now here we have on the first floor we had Burton, on the second floor we had Mabel Hutchins and Judy Brophy. Now, they got along and they didn't get along, but they worked it out. They lived next door to each other, and they were upstairs. I was protecting them, and I was providing them also with suckle. So that meant meals. I would cook meals all the time and deliver them or have them come down. So the house was running according to what we wanted to run like. Peer support, no interference from the hospital, everybody's getting along fine, and as we move along, I start to incorporate into shimmy the training down at Cargill Place. We had a kitchen, we prepared meals, we tried to educate the tenants, and we were moving along fine until we got into the politics. The politics of shimmy were as such. They needed shimmy to go after all of these funding opportunities that were out there. Now listen, all of the funding opportunities that were out belonged to the government, the homelessness initiative, the charitable foundations. That was all money that was coming into New Dawn in the guise of shimmy, supportive housing. So they got the money. They start building all these apartments. But they had a problem. The peer support element that I was running was so successful without any funding that they had to get rid of me. That's what their only objective was, to get rid of me. And when I started making trouble, not trouble, I get trouble. I started investigating these people that were spending all this money, and at the same time, I was working with a good friend that I made at the clubhouse. He was a young man named Trevor Duffy, and Trevor came to the clubhouse where he was supposed to help get rehabilitated and get out in society, because he had been at home, depressed. He was a marathon runner. So he had some really good qualities. And he was a young man. He had never went to university, but he was smart. So what did I do? We became friends, and between the two of us, we developed a sort of a presentation for student nurses. And we'd go out to the university and we would explain to them from an older perspective, on my part, and a younger perspective on Trevor's part, about what mental illness and housing and how it was required. So we were very successful at that. And so they created, at the time, when Dr. Meehan passed away, along with his family and the foundation, they created the Dr. Meehan Award for excellence in helping in mental health in this area. So Trevor and I were nominated and we won that award, and it was to be presented to the two of us by Maggie Trudeau at the Membertou Trade and Convention Center. And when they heard that I would be telling Maggie Trudeau about the Braemar home, they pulled me from the award and banned me from the Membertou Trade and Convention Center, and had me escorted out. The guy that was supposed to get the award escorted out in front of Dr. Meehan's wife, who was in a wheelchair, and her family. Now, that was the first time that they pulled out all the stops to go after Glenn Hughes on an individual level, to have me removed from this house. And I was here at the time 4 years. So Dr. Meehan's award was presented to Trevor, and they put in their hack, Fred Dio, who was there just to advance his career, and he divorced his wife in the process so he could have no kids around, and now he's with this other blonde that looks like it's, well, anyway, that's a different story. So they got the award for Dr. Meehan. Glenn was left out in the cold. My mother was going to come to the award ceremony, and I'm so glad that I didn't hype it up, because imagine if we had been going in and they had thrown me out, and my mother had been there, and she was elderly, and she was supporting me in my efforts, giving me money to feed people here. So that was the first time that they went after me. But I'm still in the house at the time, 2009, and they were relentless. They wanted me gone. So the real mission statement for Shimmy: supportive housing for individuals with mental illness, are committed to owning and management of permanently affordable, safe, and well-maintained housing for individuals with mental health issues. We believe that all persons have a right to quality, affordable housing. We are committed to helping people in need without regard to race, color, religion, sex, national origin, sexual orientation, or disability. We strive to create supportive housing that fosters independence, especially in areas of housing retention, to help break the cycle of homelessness. That it fosters independence, especially as we experience this, as many do, in mental health. We are committed to working with tenants to provide a supportive environment with integrated human services, vocational employment opportunities, accessible social services, agencies, and tenant-led groups. We are committed to work in cooperation with all the levels of government, the agencies serving people and their needs. And through these efforts, we support the dignity, the independence, and the self-sufficiency of tenants, and respect the tenants' right to involvement in their supportive housing community. Our mission involves selecting quality consumer housing specialists in partner and existing community housing stakeholders in creating linkages, resource development, and community education efforts. Researching, evaluating, and building a comprehensive information collection and dissemination database of housing resources, options, community housing development programs, which we identify current needs and issues to aid in the process of involving key stakeholders in all project activities, including planning, increasing the public's understanding and support, hope, mutual respect, dignity, self-determination, empowerment, individualization approach to service design, shared decision-making, and prevention of unnecessary hospitalization. And that is what shitting is supposed to be, and they demolished it, and then they tried to actually poison me. So it turns out that they want me out of this house so bad that they've gone to extraordinary lengths. And I'm going to start off with the first one, okay? I was investigating my own doctor, Javed Ali, who was issuing drugs to me that I had no idea what they were most times, because he was just telling me to take these things and explain them. Okay, yeah, good for your bipolar, blah, blah, blah. Turns out that he was using me in a drug trial for a drug company, and I was kind of suspicious when he was giving me free lunch, stuff like that. But nevertheless, this relationship went on, and he gained my confidence, and he was under the tutelage of Dr. Courey also, because his job was tenuous. He had gotten caught doing several things and was sanctioned. And then I brought the investigation to a new level, and he issued, I had a sore throat. It's something common that happens when you're taking certain medication. So he gave me a prescription to fill, and I took it down to the drugstore underneath where his office was located, down in that area. And so he prescribed to me a substance that the drugstore should have warned me against, but they didn't give me a monograph. It was a Rexall drugstore, Paulette's in Sydney, run by Reg, Mary Muse and Reg, I can't remember his last name. Anyway, they retired after this, but they issued this substance. I take it home. Now I don't know that it's poison. According to doctors, you should never prescribe Epipec syrup, which is used to generate you to make you throw up if you have poison in your stomach. That's the only reason it's good for it. And I take it home and I put some on a spoon. And no, taking this stuff orally, you only need like a little bit on the tip of your tongue, and you'll start throwing up. So I took some on a spoon, and I started throwing up and violently convulsing, and it was for 2 days. I was here on the floor, and nobody checked on me, and when I went to get it looked into, I was deemed to be crazy. I was told I was nuts. That never happened. So I kept the substance, and I kept the actual prescription overlay, and I hid it away, and I continued to try to get support for what just happened to me, but nobody would do anything. Next thing you know, I'm here in this house, and I'm doing my work, trying to help people, and I'm paying my rent faithfully. It's $530 a month, paid every month from June of 2006 forward. The problem with that is, as mentioned previously when reading about the housing initiatives, the guy that was in charge of the rent collection should have known that I collect Canada pension, not welfare. They assumed I was on welfare, so all I was receiving from Canada pension was $680 a month. That was it. So they were taking $530 every month when it was supposed to be $210, and didn't tell me. Now my mother and my family and friends and the food bank, all the time I was here from 2006 forward, was nothing but a struggle to get food and people donating stuff. And here I was, I had a heart condition, and when they poisoned me, that exacerbated the heart condition. So it was weaker, and I was getting weaker, and I was getting more weight on. And we were going forward. I couldn't get anybody to look into it. Dr. Ali, I had to kick him, so I had no doctor. I ended up back in the hospital, and it's when I met Dr. Rogers, because at the time they were attempting to have me put in federal prison, and they come up with an elaborate plan to do it. Dr. Courey, along with Colleen Can McKenzie and the staff at the clubhouse, used a man named Fred Berry, who they moved into my building, and nobody else here, just me and him, 2 empty apartments. They wanted me out of here. They wanted Glen Muse gone from this building. And I wasn't going anywhere. And they concocted the story that this guy said that I told him that I was going to go down and kill everybody at the Crossroads Clubhouse. So 2 days after he showed up at my door and I put the run on him because he was drinking, the cop showed up 2 days later after he got sober, and they took me away in handcuffs and charged me with uttering death threats. And for a whole year, I had to endure massive amounts of mental trauma and torture because of what they were trying to do. They kept on trying to evict me. They put this guy named Keith Nicholson, they put him into play now. Okay, so because of all of this, in 2017, I had a heart attack. And there was a life flight involved. There was stints, and I came back from Halifax where I had to go have the operation, and I was in my bed here in this house with my 2 cats, trying to recover from surgery, and Keith Nicholson, under the direction of Colleen Can and Linda Courey, who was on the board of directors with New Dawn, had him start construction in the apartment right directly above me. Without warning, without any letters saying they were coming, and nothing. And they came up here, and for 3 weeks, there was a construction crew of 4 guys or more, up and down the stairs above me, hammering, nailing, sawing, and I ended up getting sick again. And oh my God, the problem started to mount physically and mentally. And it was because of what they had just done. They tried to poison me, they tried to put me in jail, they tried everything to get me out of this house, because I am the last and only surviving member of this program that actually talks about it. Now, keep in mind, they got out millions and millions of dollars on the back of my program. And there is no program. It never existed. There's no tax number. It was on paperwork only. And they used it to get money from the federal and provincial government. So that's where we are. And they tried to kill me. And they tried to boot me out of here. They did everything in their power to do that. And now we have a situation where I have resurrected my complaints, and I've gone full court press to get the money they owe me for the rent, to get recompense for all the things they did to me, to have the people arrested that are responsible for trying to hurt me, the attempted murder, and I thought it would never get traction, but it turns out that we now have a police liaison officer with the regional hospital that actually knows my character, and I knew his father before he died, and my brother Chuck and his father Frank were the best of friends, and when they were kids, they were 10 years younger than me, and I used to help the babysit and take care of them as I did with all my brothers and sisters. So now this young man, who is a police officer in good standing, is now going to assist in straightening out all of the things that happened to me. And there will be people charged. This is going to go right up the ladder. Because we got people in the background like Rankin McSween, Norma Boyd. We got all these people from New Dawn that vacated the board of directors once this started to get out. And we have a whole new board of directors and the CEO named Erica Shea is just a young woman who they planted in there to take the heat. And she's not aware of what's going to happen. I've been trying to tell her. And she's not getting it because she's being advised by the main person who's causing the trouble, and it's Keith Nicholson. It's his responsibility. He should have had me on subsidy, and my rent should have been $210, but no. These people are keen on killing me and getting me out of here. But we're going to take this housing program back, and we're going to put it in a state where people can use it and feel proud to be part of it, with bulk buying, with the 3% kick in matching funds from the rent for a savings program, where you get 3% of your rent is matched by the program and by other levels of government, so that every month you're able to accumulate some money. You can't draw down on it for 5 years, because then it's matched by the federal government, so you have double. So for 5 years you're putting into this, and you will have a nest egg, and that was all supposed to be part of this. And it was all taken away, never mentioned. So stay tuned, because the police are now investigating. I'm in contact with Rexall and McKesson out of Ontario, who are responsible for Paulette's and that drugstore. And I'm going after Dr. Ali. I'm going after Colleen Kane McKenzie. I'm going after all of the people that lied in court and perjured themselves to hurt me. And it's all being done under the guise of the Crown Attorney and the police department. Okay? I don't have to, I'm not a violent person, but I am a person who seeks justice. And that's exactly what I'm going to get. Justice, and I will be vindicated, and maybe I might get a little ounce of redemption.